Hey, hey. Hey, hello and welcome to the show. I had everything ready except the mic pack was turned off. Whee! Hey, look, it's the show. It's me, it's John Park, and I am so glad that we are here in my workshop together. Thank you for joining me. It's Thursday, and what's going on? I've got a show. I've got you here. I want to thank you, first of all, for joining in over on YouTube. Beata Graf Abdelhagen and Dave Odessa, thanks for stopping by, and Sam J, 9203. Thank you. I gotta lift this window up because I keep having to peer around the camera. Over on our Discord, so if you're wondering where the people are and you're somewhere where there's not much of a chat going on, like Twitch, that's because people are hanging out in our Discord. So you can go to adafruit.it/Discord, jump on our Discord server. And who's there? Sam J. Ohio, John Nodge, It Should Just Work, trademark, Thin Man, Paul Cutler, Liz, Blitz City DIY, Jim Hendrickson, hello, C. Grover, thanks for jumping on in. Hey, look, there's Johnny Bergdahl showing up all over the place. Hello. I've got a coupon code for you today. I've got a recap of the product pick of the week. I've got a CircuitPython Parsec. I have a project. I have a gear discussion. And I think that's it. So let's get started with it all. First of all, if you want to save some money in the shop, if you want to head on over to Adafruit.com and buy some stuff and save 10%, then use that coupon code right there. It's Pixels. Pixels will save you every time, and in this case, they will save you 10% from your order. That's good on things, not on concepts like software and gift certificates and subscriptions, but it's good on physical things that we can send to you in an envelope or a box or any other way we might endeavor to send you something. So head to Adafruit. If you go to the shop, adafruit.com, that's the shop right there. Let me move the, if I can, let me move the coupon over to the side there. And we, of course, we have not had a ton of new products lately because of the holidays and the child birthing and all of those things, but I'm going to guess that Lamore will be getting on some new stuff soon. However, we do have some new stuff in the shop. I noticed this Witty Pie 5 Hat Plus just showed up. Those, I've not used these, but these set on top of your Raspberry Pi and then break out all of the I/O pins on top so you don't lose that functionality. And this gives you a whole power management system. I've known people who've used these in some little synthesizer things like Steve, Denki Otto, has the Shield XL, which is a Mono Norns music computer. And I believe there's some people in the forums for Steve's stuff who have used this Woody Pi 5 hat and adapted the case to put a big battery under there and give you a portable Pi. Portable Pi solutions can be tricky because you've got a single board computer there. It's running Linux. You can't just go pull the power on it like you can with a microcontroller because it's risky. Bad things can happen. This, however, does some management stuff, gives you a soft off button which powers down gently and safely. Has charging circuit. What else? Real-time clock. Little battery there for the real-time clock. I have not used these, so I can't talk to it, but it looks good. I think I've used one of the other Woody Pi products before. It was, I think, a Pi Zero hub and a Pi Zero power supply. But that's one thing right there that looks interesting and neat and new, and you can save 10% off if you use that coupon code right there, Pixels. What else? There's the little BFF add-on charger just showed up again in the store. Might have been a refresh. The Pi 5. Of course, prices are going up on all of these things, right? The Pis, I think, announced unilateral price increases due to the cost of memory. They have a lot on there. Microcontrollers have very little. Raspberry Pi 5, big lots of amount. So Pi 5 there with 1 gig of RAM, $49.50. I think that's the cheapest Pi 5. If you click here, you'll see what the others are running at. But again, if you want to buy today, save 10%. That coupon code right there, Pixels, that's going to be good until midnight tonight, East Coast time in the US. And here's a couple other new things in there to check out. So that's the coupon code, Pixels. Don't forget it. By the way, one thing I am distracted by is this looping animation here, demoing it. And a lot of these you can right-click in the image window is actually not a GIF. Sometimes we submit GIFs and they get turned into a little video that's played on the Adafruit site. If you right-click, you can show the controls for the little mini embedded video player there, or just uncheck loop and it'll only run the one time. Refresh the page, it'll start over again. But that's a little tip there for if you get distracted by the moving animation. There may be browser level ways to turn that off, but if you want to just pause one after seeing it enough times, you can do that. All right, I'm going to get another sip of my delicious iced chai here. Who else showed up? Over in our chats, we have JLEISE Gang. I don't know how to pronounce that, sorry. And it's very small, so I might be misreading it. But hello. That's over on YouTube. And then in our Discord chat, Charles B. Hello from PA. Nice to see you. And Andy Calloway. Hello. All right. Next up, it is time for a recap of my Tuesday show. So if you are not familiar, I've got a show on Tuesdays, which is the Product Pick of the Week show. Pick something, sometimes new, sometimes something from our archives. This was a favorite. This is one actually I'm surprised we had never done as a product pick before. And here's a little recap of the show. The Circuit Playground Bluefruit. This is an NRF52840 base chip, but it's in the same Circuit Playground and Circuit Playground Express form factor that people love. It is a Bluetooth rather than infrared for doing communication between devices. I'm powering up my peripheral, typo, and power up the client. These are now going to connect to each other, so the peripheral just connected to the client. And you'll see if I hold one of the CapTouch pads, I'll get a little red LED circle flowing around. I'll get a green one with this pad. I'll get a blue one with this pad, and I can also mix those. So if I do combinations of those, I'll get little swirling patterns. So that's all just device to device using Bluetooth LE. It is the Circuit Playground Bluefruit. Yes, it is. And speaking of synergy, was I? I don't know. But speaking of synergy, I've got a CircuitPython Parsec for you related to that product pick. So here we go. Okay, for the CircuitPython Parsec today, I wanted to extend the previous tip of using the Circuit Playground Bluefruit as a remote camera shutter for iOS devices. And this time, based on a tip that I believe maybe Sam J. Ohio made in the chat, take a look at using it as an intervalometer. And my apologies if it was someone else who had mentioned that last week. So this right here, let's recap. This is the Circuit Playground Bluefruit. I've got it in this little snazzy case right here. And I'm going to unplug it from USB. I just have a little LiPo battery there. And it is set up, as it was last week, as a remote camera shutter. So click right there. You can see it just took a photo with my iPhone here. However, an intervalometer is something that you can use to take multiple photos on an interval, hence the name. And so what I've done is added a little feature here where when I move the slide switch on the Circuit Playground Bluefruit, it moves into this 5 photo, hence 5 LEDs, intervalometer mode. So I'm going to go ahead and click this and watch. It's going to take 5 photos. Click, 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 click. So this is great for capturing sports, for capturing motions, movements. You can have this moving, and rather than taking a video, you get a very distinct set of photos. Another great use for this I showed last week using a tripod. Now I've got this monopod here, so if I go ahead and put this phone on the monopod, I can hold this up over a crowd and take a series of photos, get the best one in there and avoid anyone blinking, without having to futz around with the phone settings. I know a lot of the phones have these things, but I don't know about you, but it is pretty rare where I'm with a group of people and we're trying to take a group photo or a selfie that anyone has the patience to set up the software intervalometers and burst photos and things like that. So this is a way to do that using the Circuit Playground Bluefruit. So the code for this, very similar to last week, but let's talk about it. So I'm importing time so that I'll be able to do little pauses between photos. I've got the board definition for pins. I've got the neopixels so that I can light them up for feedback here. I have the BLE, Adafruit BLE, and the HID libraries coming in to do all the Bluetooth stuff and the consumer control. It's consumer control volume up that tells an iPhone to hit the shutter, or volume down. I think they both work. And I'm using digital I/O since I'm checking pins for that slide switch and those buttons. I've set up the neopixels here to light up 10 neopixels. I define the BLE and the HID services, and I'm advertising this as a device. So on the phone, we go into Bluetooth settings and pair up with this Circuit Playground device that shows up. Setting up this button as my trigger button here, button A. And now you can see I'm also setting up the slide switch as a digital in-out board.slide switch with a pull-up resistor on there. Create the consumer control. Now I'm creating a state variable, previous switch state, to know if I've changed the switch so that we can light up the LEDs differently and also pick the proper mode for triggering. And I'm also doing a little bit of setting those colors and states initially before we even get to the main loop of the program. Then in the main loop of the program, I am checking to see if we're connected to Bluetooth, and when we connect, I go ahead and set my pixel to yellow initially. Sorry, my pixel to blue. Initially, it's yellow to say that we're not connected. Then we are always going to check the slide switch position to see if it's been changed. If it gets changed, then I have a little LED clear out. I set them all to 0. And then if the slide switch value is positive, that means it's to the left, and we light up just the first pixel. And if it's negative or false, then we set all of these 5 off on the right side to blue. Then we're looking for button presses. So again, button press, if the slide switch is off to the left, we just do, and let me turn the phone camera back on. I'll point that up. So we'll take one picture if that switch is off to the left by saying CC send consumer control volume increment. That sets the shutter. Otherwise, it means the switch is off to the right. And here's where we're going to take our multiple pictures. So I set the proper LEDs. I pause for a moment, and then when we are going to shoot through those photos, we flash the LEDs, the 5 LEDs, to white, send consumer control volume increment. I'm printing something just for debugging, and then I pause 0.15 seconds, and we can change that interval if we want it quicker. I'm not sure what the fastest this can do is. Then refresh the LEDs, and then we're complete. So you can play around with timings in there, and of course you could set up a more elaborate interface where you're using more of the buttons. I'm not using this one over here, maybe to toggle through some presets of how many photos you want to take or what the interval is, or you could start to get more complicated and use some of the cap touch buttons and more feedback there. But I wanted to keep this one simple. And so that is how you can set up an intervalometer using the Circuit Playground Bluefruit inside of CircuitPython. And that is your CircuitPython Parsec. One question someone is, was this the sandy monopod I found on the roadside? Yes, it cleaned up pretty well. I was able to pull these all apart, wipe them off. The segments came off. I think I disassembled these on the show, or if not, a different tripod I had gotten. But yeah, it's a nice Bogan / Manfrotto one with a little ball head on it, which is perfect for this type of stuff, being able to set this camera at any angle and then lock it off and use that. It's not meant to be an extension pole like this, but it works pretty well. It's, you know, it's meant to be a, I don't want to carry too much stuff and I'm hiking or whatever, and I want a tripod I can sort of balance and reduce shake. That said, I have some photos I wanted to show you, and thanks again for mentioning that because I almost forgot. Here, I shot these this morning, so there I am, not using the intervalometer feature, but just taking a photo. Actually, I think I did use the intervalometer feature, but just picked the best one. So there you can see me holding that pod with the camera pretty high up. I mean, it's not a drone or a kite, but it's decent, and it's quick and easy to set up. Here's another one here. You can see I'm trying to block the sun from my face, but I've got the Circuit Playground Bluefruit in my hand there. I just happen to have that little flexi tripod on there at the time. So yeah, a little fun stuff with that monopod. And you know, you can get selfie sticks that have the little shutter release. It's the same gag. It uses the volume control to trigger it. However, if you're building your own really long selfie stick like this monopod, you probably don't have that button. So little Circuit Playground Bluefruit to the rescue. All right, let's see. That covers that. Okay, next up, let's jump into this project. So I'm gonna hop over here to the bench for a bit, and then we'll come back here. So grab my drink. This is, if you were able to watch the show and tell last night, I started talking about this a bit. We'll get into more depth here today. And let me open up my Discord just so I can see what's happening. Ooh, there you are. That broadcast chat. Oh yeah, John Notch says, I did start cleaning it up on the workshop a few months back. Glad it worked out. Yeah, it worked out really well. So here is a couple of CircuitPython based gizmos. One is the Memento Pi camera, ESP32S3. And the other is the MagTag, also ESP32S3, I think. You know, I should probably take these out of their cases so I can read things like that. But the way I'm using these, Lamore had mentioned to me a project she had seen of a e-ink or e-paper display on a little camera, similar sort of thing to Memento, a small, lowish resolution camera, and rather than a TFT, it had a nice big e-paper display on it. Before I dive into trying to build something like that from scratch, I thought, ooh, I could just take two of these sort of off-the-shelf Adafruit things and see if they'll play well together as a slightly different project, but still sort of a simple camera with a low-resolution image and a low-resolution display that looks kind of neat. So I'm going to zoom and focus here a little better. Oh, I almost had it. There we go. So this is a photo I took of part of this Smurfs mug. You can see right here. Oh, and in fact, this monopod, that wasn't the side of the road. That was someone just giving it away on the internet, and they were giving away a bunch of stuff. And this Smurfs mug also came from that. It was not a yard sale. It was I need to get stuff out of my garage. So the Smurfs mug has some connectivity to that monopod. I thought it'd be good for storing little screwdrivers in or something. So this photo I took with the Memento, and let me go ahead and turn the Memento on. When this turns on, it's going to jump on my local network. So I have a settings.toml file with the SSID and password for the router in here. And same thing with this. You can see the lights blinking there. This is going to turn on, connect to the local network. What I've done on this is started with our simple camera. Let me turn off the LEDs for a moment. Our simple camera code, and I'm using, there's effect number 4, I think, sets it to black and white, which just makes it easier, I think, to compose your image for the final destination, which is a monochrome display here. I added to this a toggle between a few LED brightness levels. So each time I press that, it flashes pink for no good reason, and then goes to a brighter and brighter of the white. These are RGBW LEDs. So that works pretty well. I get some glare on a shiny thing like this, but if I take the photo at a little bit of an angle, it won't affect it too much, and it'll look pretty good. So let's find an alternate angle here of a Smurf to take. And the way I have this right now, I need to put some crop marks on here because this is a very wide display and it's a pretty square camera viewfinder on here. So I'm going to take a picture filling only part of it vertically. Let's see if we can get most of this Smurf in there. Okay, it's going to take the photo, and then you can see it turned it into a dithered GIF. And that is also just some PyCamera functionality. We have like that Game Boy filter. So I'm taking the photo, I believe I captured as a JPEG, then run the filter, which turns it into a GIF. It saves it to the SD card on here so it can work with the file, which then gets encoded into base 64. You can hear it beep there because it just finished uploading up to Adafruit IO. And now I have a little glitch there where it still didn't refresh the text on the bottom, but now it's back in viewfinder mode. So the camera is kind of done with its part. In fact, I'll just turn it off. Now, this gizmo here, I think I've set it to every 15 seconds, it checks. It's also online, so it goes on to my Wi-Fi router, checks the camera feed that I have on Adafruit IO, and says, hey, is there any image newer with a fresher date stamp on it than the currently displayed image? And there you can see it said yes, and it started downloading it, and now it displayed the image. So that round trip there, it takes like a minute, right? It's not super fast. This part's pretty fast. This actually only takes about 5-10 seconds to get the image up online. The beep here actually happens quite a bit after that. I'm not sure. I need to look at optimizing things, but it sends it pretty quickly. It takes anywhere from like 1 to 15 seconds for it to check because I don't want to hammer the requests. But once it does check, it seems to take about 30 or 40 seconds to download and decode and then display that image. But you see, we get this really great, particularly for this kind of high contrast, simple line art looking stuff. You get a nice image. We can let me do a new one. Oh, actually, before I do that, let's take a look at the feed. So let me head back over here, and I just want to show you. Oh, that's cute. Look, my phone just picked up a bunch of screwdriver bits. The magnets on these phones. I'll set that down. So let's take a look at my feed. So in the browser, I actually have this, I think it's a public feed right now. So, oh, it hasn't refreshed the browser. That's funny. Let me hit refresh. There you go. So if you go to io.adafruit.com/johnpark/feeds/camera, that's the feed I'm using. And in fact, my code right now will just make that feed if it doesn't exist, but you can create different feeds, name them. So I think I set this to public, which means you should be able to see it. And I also set the feed to turn off feed history. This, by the way, we'll take a look at the guide that a lot of this code came from, which was a Brent Rubel did a collaboration project with the Ruiz brothers of an IoT doorbell. So capturing an image with a memento, encoding it base 64, sending it up to the feed, setting up the feed, what settings do you need to feel, all that comes from this guide. So really my half the work was done, and then pulling it down onto the mag tag was the second half of it. So this feed here, you can see it gets the full image, 240 by 240 pixel image that I took with the Memento camera, throws it up here. You can look at that. If I view the value of this data point, this is a base 64 encoded on one long line with a big scroll bar across the bottom. If I copy and paste that and have a little CircuitPython code that decodes that into an image file, that's it. That's the image file right there. Super clever, great work by Brent. So that data point is what my Memento goes and checks for. It looks at that date stamp, says, yep, that's new. I'm going to download that. And then once it's got it downloaded, it can turn that back into an image. So let me leave that up, and let's do another one, and we can watch the process in as real time as we can. So let's throw the, put a, yeah, I'll just hold them up here. Okay, so let's turn, you're on, let's turn the camera on. And so then I'm just watching here. I have a beep when it's ready. Oh, Tyeth says, appears base 64 images are only shown if it's your account /feed. Don't quote me on that, and it might still work in dashboards with public feeds. Okay. Yeah, thanks, Tyeth. We'll dive into this deeper as I work on the guide for this. Okay, so there I am. I'll do a photo of me this time. So I just hit the reset button. And the case even shows you that arrow. That's the shutter button. That's the reset button. I ignored that. So let me wait for it to connect again. It's connecting. Once it's connected, it'll show a preview image. Beeps. Okay, it's ready. Click. It should have just turned that into the dithered GIF. Ooh, I got a weird artifact at the top. No, it's not. It was only on my display, not in another image. Okay, that's a great photo. It looks like a circa 1990 driver's license photo. So now we're waiting for this guy to get it. So again, like I said, it can be about 15 seconds at most before it goes to check for that, and then I should add some lights or beeps to this, at least for debugging, so I know when it has checked, and that'll make it easier to see how long it takes to download it. Oh, there it goes. It's grabbing it, it's decoding it, and ba-boom! So kind of fun. It's kind of like the thermal printer, a digital equivalent of a Game Boy printer, thermal paper with the Game Boy camera. It's very low res. This has magnets on it, so you can stick it to stuff, which is fun. It's e-ink, so we could add some code to go very, very low power on it, or you can just turn it off when you don't want to waste battery, and it'll keep that image displayed on there. And I believe there wouldn't be much to prevent you from having multiple people involved and playing along if everyone's got the right access. And Tyeth, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it'd be possible to share just that with some people, and then you can force them to enjoy your photography of whatever you take your photos of, mostly Smurf mugs, I hope, and share these fun low resolution images. So that's where the project stands now. I think I've mostly got some tuning to do with this, and I wanted to show you the original inspiration for this project, which I veered from somewhat significantly. Let me go grab the link for that, just because I want to give credit where it's due, at least for the inspiration. Let's see, one moment while I find that link. Here it is. Math is Fun 2048 is the user on GitHub with this document making an instant camera with an e-ink display to emulate that feeling while allowing for the benefits of digital images. So it's a really nice, thorough sort of journal of the design process and thinking behind it. The result looks fantastic. It's a single PCB that has a camera on one side, little cutout for the viewfinder at the top of the PCB, and then an e-ink display on the back. I actually don't know at what stage it's at. This is sort of a work in progress, I think, but that is the inspiration. So check that out if you're interested, and let me know what you think about the weird direction I've taken with it. That's not exactly that. All right. Oh yeah, we could take a Lars photo. People mentioned Lars and his cool new haircut. Let's do a Lars photo. I'm gonna bring back. Where did my feed go? There it is. All right, Lars, get ready for your close-up. He's being shy. Ew. Yep. We got some teeth in there. We got some eyeball. We got some shag haircut. Yep, there's the image there. And then we wait for that to arrive. Yes, I really kind of want to send these to like family and friends, just this part, so that I get to be in control of what shows up on your fridge. Definitely Lars selfie. Where are you? Where are you, Lars? Yeah, I need to add beeps and lights to this so I know. That's a cute Smurf there. Is that Yanisku 7? It is. Whoa. Nothing yet. Oh, there it goes. And that's so horrifying. Gosh, Lars. Okay. Yeah, I don't want to leave you with that, or do I? Next thing, why don't we move past all of that? So thanks for playing along with that. That's where my current project stands. Next thing I wanted to do is, there is a cool thing going on with this teenage engineering microphone product. Phil just posted about this on the blog. Let me bring up the browser. So this is a little handheld microphone reminiscent of like a CB radio microphone or a ham radio microphone from the 70s in a sort of Dieter Rams meets dub music design. It's meant for one of their sample station gizmos. I have the original one, which is this KO2, which is a really cool little sample player composer. This one has a little microphone built in, and you can hold down sample and pick a slot. And then I can trigger that, I can pitch that. You can hear I got a delay on there, which is neat for when you're writing a little song, but the microphone input here is begging for you to use something like this. So they came out with this one. I assume it's usable on all of their different variants on this product. But what's neat about it is in a dub and reggae dance hall inspired product, they added to it effects. So you can pull that green trigger there to enable the mic, push to talk. You can trigger effects, so you can add a delay or a robot voice or whatever. And you can trigger 4 samples. So that little green button there will play like sirens and dub sirens and other effects that are, other samples that are built onto it. But what's fascinating is, first of all, the product name. So let me go to their. This is Teenage Engineering's manual for it. This Ting FX microphone is the EP2350, which is kind of wild to me that Teenage Engineering, who is very design conscious and deliberate in their naming, named this thing for the microcontroller that it's running on. It's a Raspberry Pi Pico. RP2350 is the chip on it, and they named the product EP2350, which is very surprising to me. But I'm sure that was the first clue to people before anyone even tore it down, that that's what it was running on. So here you can see this is their manual that shows some of those things I was talking to. So push to talk, FX mode. It also has strength of effect based on squeezing that trigger. It's not a simple on-off. And you can also shake the thing to adjust some effects. I think like the delay or something can be affected by shaking it. So pretty cool little gizmo. And there's been some blog posts about it because, very interestingly, before anyone even had to take it apart and try to reverse engineer it, they included instructions in the manual of how to adjust the effects and the samples, put your own samples on, build little effects chain stacks using a JSON file. So there's instructions here on plugging the thing in, putting it into like a disk mode. It's running MicroPython. And here's their full anatomy of the JSON file. There's some nice YouTube videos and blog posts from people about their own presets they've done. And then it gets even wilder. This person, Bruno Marino, at brunomarino.com, has created a GUI-based, web-based GUI for creating that JSON file or editing that JSON file. So you can import your JSON file. Wait, I just got a beep. I want to make sure that that was not a, hey, your sound has gone out. No, it has not. You can edit the JSON file here by putting your different effects, your 4 effects together, also as chains. Tell it if the effects are, you've got choices here of filters, high pass, low pass, distortion, delay, ring mod, harmonizer, SSB, which I forget what that is, balance, and how those, if those are affected by the shaking and the squeeze trigger, and LFO for modulation. So really cool. And then there's also oh, that's the paper cam. There's also a GitHub page here for all of the code that went into making that, as well as some notes about it. And I believe the same user has created a drum machine since the thing can play back samples, and that's the other part of what is in the manual here, is uploading your own wave files, and I forget what their specs are on those, but you can put 4 waves so that instead of playing whoop, 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 you can, you know, throw whatever you want on there, any 4 wave files that are properly formatted. So very interesting, and so I'm gonna go back to Phil's post here. I'm gonna. I ordered one. This was originally only came along with the sampler station. I forget what that one is called now. It was a bundle, and I didn't really want. I already have one of them. So this morning they announced that you could buy it alone. There were some of them floating around on Reverb, but now you can buy one. I think it's, I want to say $65 before shipping and tax. And go to their store link up here. Ting, $59, and then you'll pay shipping and tax on top of that. So there's some views of it. Yes, someone said very Dieter Rams, or very, very Braun inspired, like most Teenage Engineering things. There's a lot of nods to Braun. Looks like you could shave with it. So that's the thing. So I'm gonna play around with it. I'm also curious what things we can do. You know, do we put CircuitPython on it? Can we create a similar thing using a Pico 2 or a Feather RP2350 to do the effects? I think the real-time DSP is going to be the challenge on that. But anyway, it's a very interesting one, and pretty cool to see someone like Teenage Engineering, who's a boutique but very high-end quality synth and music gear maker, doing something like this with a open source-ish. So, you know, some parts of this are closed, but the fact that it's MicroPython, the fact that they're opening up things like the JSON file for configuration are definitely interesting. So keep an eye out for that. All right, what else? Is that going to do it for us today? I think. Yes, I think it is. Hey, thank you so much for stopping by. I believe Scott is doing a deep dive tomorrow. Stay tuned. Check our blog. Check our Discord. And then we'll be back with a new product pick of the week on Tuesday of next week, 3D Hangouts on Wednesday, show and tell, possibly pre-recorded video content from Lady Ada and PT. And then, am I missing anything? I feel like I am, but that's some of the stuff for sure. All right, thanks everyone so much for stopping by. Ready for industry. I'm John. This has been John. Bye.